I was 16 when I destroyed Pastor Evans's life in front of 300 people in the middle of Sunday service. I played an 8-minute video on the church's giant screen, a video with sights and sounds that no kid should ever have to experience. I watched his wife collapse on the floor. I heard my own mother scream that I was possessed. I saw 3 men drag him outside while he sobbed. And if I could go back, I'd do it 1,000 times worse. That makes me a monster, I know. Because after you hear my whole story, maybe you'll agree with that. Or maybe you'll understand why I did it. I need to tell this all of it, with no filter, because I can't hold it in anymore. Because every night I dream about that Sunday, and I wake up not knowing if I should feel proud or shattered. Because my own mom hasn't spoken to me in a year and a half. Because there are people in my town who want to see me dead, and others who call me a hero. And I just want someone to understand that I had no other choice. My name is Leo. I'm 17 now, and this is the most messed up story of my life. The story of how the man everyone worshipped stole my childhood for 3 years, and how I took everything from him in 8 minutes. I grew up in a small town in the South where everybody knows everybody. The kind of place where if your mom misses church on Sunday, the whole town is talking about your family by Monday. Grace Chapel was the center of everything. It's where people got married, where babies were baptized, where the dead were buried. And at the head of it all was him. Pastor Evans, 42 years old, perfect smile. A voice that made you feel like God was really listening when he prayed. Everybody loved him. Men, women, children, the elderly. He was like a celebrity in our little town. I really looked up to him. When I was 11 and my dad died in a car crash, Pastor Evans was the one who helped my mom up. He visited us, prayed with us. He told me I was the man of the house now. My mom got even more religious after that. She'd say, God took my dad, but left us the pastor to guide us. I went to every service. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday youth group, Friday, prayer meeting. I was the perfect church kid, the one who memorized Bible verses, sang in the choir, and helped set up chairs. I was 13 when it started. 13. I had just started middle school. I was still playing video games and collecting basketball cards. I was still a kid, even though I tried to act mature, because my mom always told me I couldn't be a kid anymore, that I had responsibilities. Pastor Evans called me into his office one Wednesday after youth group. He said he wanted to talk to me in private, that he'd noticed I seemed distant from God lately. It was a lie, I was fine, but I went to his office because you never say no to the pastor. His office was big, with bookshelves full of Bibles and theology books, a dark wood desk, and a brown leather couch where he'd sit to counsel people. I sat on that couch. He locked the door. He said it was so no one would interrupt us. He started by asking normal stuff, how I was doing in school, if I had friends, if I missed my dad. I answered everything. I trusted him. He was the pastor like a second father to me. Then he asked if I'd awakened yet. That's how he put it. If I was feeling those things young men feel. I turned red. I didn't know what to say. He told me it was normal that God made us that way, that I shouldn't be ashamed. He said he could help me understand my body from a biblical perspective that a lot of young men get lost because no one explains it to them properly. And then he touched me. First, it was a hand on my shoulder, then on my leg. He told me to relax, to trust him. I was frozen. I didn't understand what was happening. My brain was screaming that something was wrong, but it was also telling me that he was the pastor, that he knew more than I did, that if God put him in charge, it was because I could trust him. I just sat there while he did things I won't describe in detail, because it makes me sick to even remember. When he was done, he told me this was our secret with God, something special between us. He said, if I told anyone, nobody would believe me, that my mom would be disappointed in me for slandering a man of God. He said I had tempted him without realizing it, and that's why it happened. He made me feel like it was my fault. I walked out of that office, feeling like something inside me had shattered, but I didn't tell a soul. I was scared, ashamed, and a part of me still believed maybe he was right, that maybe I'd done something wrong. That was just the beginning. It kept happening over and over whenever he got the chance. In his office after services, at youth retreats, where he'd always ask me to stay behind to help him organize. At his house, when my mom would send me over with a casserole. For 3 years from 13 to 16, he manipulated me in ways I can't even fully explain. He'd buy me things, new sneakers, video games, cash. He told me I was special, that God had chosen me for something great, that our connection was unique. He'd twist Bible verses to justify what he was doing. He'd talk about David and Jonathan from the Old Testament, saying their love was like ours. He said God's love shows itself in many forms. I started to change. My grades dropped. I stopped hanging out with friends. I became quiet, withdrawn. I had constant nightmares. I started to hate Wednesdays and Sundays, but I kept going to church because my mom made me. And he kept smiling from the pulpit, like nothing was wrong preaching about holiness and purity, while I sat in the third row feeling dirty and broken. When I was 14, I tried to tell my mom. One night after she finished her bedtime prayers, I went to her room. "Mom," I said, "I need to tell you something about Pastor Evans." She turned to me with a smile. "What is it, sweetheart? Did he have another word from God for you?" I took a deep breath. "No, Mom. He does things to me. Bad things. He touches me." I didn't get to finish. Her face changed completely. It went pale, then red with anger. "How dare you?" she screamed. "How dare you slander that man of God? He has helped us so much. He prayed for us when your father died. And you come in here with these lies from the devil. You're confused, Leo. Satan is using you to attack a servant of the Lord. She made me kneel on the floor, right then and there, and pray for forgiveness. She made me promise to never say those horrible lies again. I cried the whole night. That's when I understood I was completely alone. I also tried to tell Ryan, my best friend since elementary school. One day after school, I said, "Dude, I need to tell you something serious." I told him everything. I expected him to believe me, to back me up. But Ryan's dad was one of the church deacons. He looked at me with disgust and said, "Bro, what is wrong with you? Pastor Evans is a saint. If he's counseling you, it's because he sees you're messed up. Don't make stuff like that up. Seriously, that's a major sin to slander someone like that." And he walked away. He stopped talking to me after that. That was when something inside me shut off. Or maybe it ignited. A rage I had never felt before. A pure hatred, not just for Pastor Evans, but for my mom, for Ryan, for everyone who worshipped him and ignored me. I stopped crying. I stopped feeling guilty. All I felt was rage. The abuse continued. He felt safer now, knowing I had tried to speak up, and no one believed me. He got sloppier, bolder. He started sending me texts. Messages that, looking back now, are so clearly from a predator. But at the time, I just saved them, not knowing what to do with them. When I was 15, about to turn 16, something happened that changed everything. It was at a youth retreat in some cabins up in the mountains. By then, I was numb to it all, just surviving. One night, I woke up thirsty and walked out of my cabin to go to the main lodge. I passed by one of the counselor cabins and saw a light on. I got closer. The door was cracked open, and I saw him. Pastor Evans, with another kid, a 12-year-old named Jake. They were in a position that left nothing to the imagination. I froze. Jake saw me. His eyes were filled with tears. The pastor saw me too. He slammed the door shut. I ran back to my cabin. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, Pastor Evans pulled me aside. "I know what you think you saw last night," he said, "but it was a misunderstanding. Jake was having an emotional crisis, and I was just comforting him. If you say anything, it's your word against mine, and we've already seen how that goes for you. Besides, if you talk, Jake is the one who will suffer. His family is very religious. They'll blame him. You want that on your conscience?" He had me trapped, and he knew it. But that night, something in me shifted. It wasn't just about me anymore. There were other victims, and there had probably been more before me. This son of a bitch had been doing this for years, and everyone protected him. Everyone loved him. Everyone worshipped him, while we, the kids, were left shattered in silence. That's when I decided that, if no one was going to believe us, I had to do something that was impossible to ignore. Something so big, so public, so undeniable, that they couldn't cover up the truth. Even if it meant destroying everything. Even if it meant becoming the villain to half the town. I spent the next 6 months planning. I became calculated cold. I kept letting Pastor Evans abuse me, but now I was collecting evidence. Every time I went to his office, I had my phone hidden, recording audio. I captured clips that would make any normal person call the police immediately. I saved every text he sent me. Messages where he'd say things like, "You're my special boy. I can't stop thinking about you. What we have is a gift from God." I took pictures of the gifts he gave me with dates. I made a detailed list of every single time something happened with exact dates and locations. I also did my research. I learned about child abuse laws, about how investigations work. I read about similar cases online and realized something horrible. If I went straight to the police, nothing would probably happen, not at first. It would be a teenager's word against a respected pastor's in a religious town. It would take them months to investigate, and in that time, he'd destroy evidence, manipulate witnesses, and I'd be painted as the liar who attacked an innocent man. No, I needed it to be public. I needed the entire congregation to see it, so they couldn't deny it, so they couldn't protect him, even if it meant publicly humiliating innocent people like his wife and kids. At that point, my rage was bigger than my empathy. I turned 16 on a Saturday in February. The following Sunday was Family Sunday, the biggest service of the month. I knew there would be over 300 people there. Perfect. I spent all week editing a video. I put in clips of the audio where his voice was clear, saying explicit things. I put in screenshots of the texts. I put in pictures he had sent me, some of himself, some he'd asked me to send of myself. I made a montage of everything, and at the end, I recorded my own testimony. Me, looking straight at the camera telling everything, with dates, with places, with details. Naming Jake and 3 other boys I suspected were also victims, though I'd never spoken to them directly. The video was 8 minutes long. I saved it on a flash drive. That Sunday, I put on my best clothes, like it was any other Sunday. My mom was happy because I'd been more engaged at church lately. She didn't know I was just waiting for the right moment. We got to the church. Grace Chapel was big for a small town church, with seating for 400. It was packed that day. Whole family's kids running in the aisles, the praise band warming up. And up at the front, in his impeccable gray suit, with his leather-bound Bible in hand, was him. Pastor Evans. Smiling, greeting everyone, kissing babies, hugging grandmas. The perfect man. I sat in my usual spot, 3rd row on the right. My mom next to me. The flash drive was in my pocket. My heart was beating so hard, I thought everyone could hear it. But on the outside, I was calm, cold. The service started like normal. Songs, announcements, offering. Then it was time for the sermon. Pastor Evans stepped up to the pulpit. His topic that day was purity in a corrupt world. I'm not kidding. He started talking about how the world was full of sexual immorality, how young people were being perverted by the internet and social media, how the church had to be a refuge of holiness. Listening to him, I felt like my head was going to explode. The hypocrisy was unbearable. I waited until he was about 20 minutes into his sermon. Then I stood up. I just got out of my seat and started walking toward the front. My mom whispered, "Where are you going?" But I didn't answer. The whole congregation turned to look at me. Pastor Evans saw me walking toward him and paused mid-sentence. He smiled, probably thinking I was going to give a testimony or something. I stepped onto the platform. I walked over to Julian, the kid who ran the sound and the projector screens. I said in the calmest voice I could manage, "Pastor Evans asked me to play a special testimony video today. It's a surprise. Can you put it on the big screen?" I held out the flash drive. Julian hesitated for a second, but he knew me. I was the good church kid. He glanced at Pastor Evans as if asking if it was okay. The pastor, confused, but not wanting to make a scene, nodded. He probably thought it was something innocent. Julian put the flash drive into the laptop. The giant screen they used for the song lyrics went black for a second. And then my video started. The first 3 seconds were a close-up of my face and my voice saying, "My name is Leo, and I'm 16 years old. For the last 3 years, Pastor Evans has been sexually abusing me, and I have proof of everything." The silence that followed was the heaviest thing I've ever felt. You could hear people breathing. Every eye was glued to the screen. Pastor Evans screamed, "Turn that off! Turn that off now!" He rushed toward the tech booth, but I was already there blocking his path. He pushed me. I didn't move. And then the audio clip started, short, clear fragments. His voice saying things that left no room for interpretation. My younger voice sounding scared. Sounds that, well, anyone could figure out what was happening. People started to gasp. Some mothers covered their kids' ears. A few men stood up. Pastor Evans's wife, sitting in the front row, turned white as a sheet. Then came the screenshots of the text, projected huge for everyone to read. Messages that were clearly from an adult grooming a minor. Gifs, photos, all dated. And then came my full testimony. 4 minutes of me telling everything, every detail, every place, every time. And at the end, I said the names of Jake and the 3 other boys, asking them to also speak up if they had gone through the same thing. By the time the video ended, the church was in absolute chaos. Pastor Evans's wife was on the floor, his teenage kids crying over her. My mom was staring at me with an expression I'll never forget, a mix of horror, denial, and pure hatred. The pastor was trying to talk. "It's a lie. It's all edited. This is an attack from the devil." Leo is confused. He's being used by Satan. But his voice was desperate, broken. 3 men from the congregation got up and walked toward him. One of them was the father of Jake, the 12-year-old I'd seen. They grabbed him by his suit jacket and yanked him from the pulpit. The pastor was crying, screaming that he was innocent. Someone had already called the police. I just stood there on the platform, motionless, watching it all burn. Watching some people look at me with pity, others with disgust, others with total confusion. I saw my mom get up and run out of the church without a single glance back at me. I saw the pastor's wife being carried out on a stretcher after a panic attack. I saw kids crying, not understanding what was happening. And in the middle of all that chaos, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. I felt like I could breathe. The police showed up in about 15 minutes. They took Pastor Evans away in handcuffs. He tried to talk to me as they let him out. He screamed, "You destroyed everyone. Not just me. Everyone. That's what you wanted, right? And you know what? He was right. That's exactly what I wanted." They took me to the station too, not as a suspect, but as a victim. My mom refused to come with me. She sent my aunt instead. The next few days were a media firestorm in our town. The local paper ran the story on the front page. The town's social media pages exploded. There were two clear sides, those who believed me and those who thought I was a liar who had destroyed an innocent man. Jake, the 12-year-old, confirmed my story 3 days later. His parents took him to the police. Then 2 of the other 3 boys I had named also came forward. The 4th never said a word. His family moved out of town a week later. With those confirmations, the case against Pastor Evans became solid. They found more evidence on his computer on his phone. It turned out he'd been doing this for almost 10 years. There were victims before me who were now adults and had never spoken up. Some of them came forward after I blew the whistle. Now let me tell you the part that eats me alive. What I did was necessary, yes, but it also destroyed innocent people. I told you the pastor's wife tried to kill herself 2 weeks later. She took a bottle of pills. They saved her, but she ended up in a psychiatric ward. His sons, who were 14 and 17, had to move in with their grandmother in another state because they were being bullied so brutally at school. They paid for their father's sins. The congregation split in 2. Half of them left the church and started a new one in the next town over. The other half stayed, but it was never the same. There were 2 suicides members of the congregation who couldn't handle the shock and the shame of having been so blind for so long. Families that had been friends for generations stopped speaking to each other. The entire town was fractured. And my mom never fully believed me. Or maybe she didn't want to. She kicked me out of the house 2 days after the incident. She told me I had destroyed our lives, that I had shamed our family, that I had been used by the devil, and that Pastor Evans was probably innocent, and I had manipulated everything. I went to live with my aunt in a city 3 hours away. My mom and I haven't spoken since. She sent me a text on my 17th birthday that said, "I pray for your soul every day, but I can't look at you without feeling like I failed as a mother." That was it. Ryan, my ex-best friend, posted on Facebook that I was a liar looking for attention. Several of my old church friends sent me hateful messages. They called me a traitor, a fake, a homewrecker. There were threats against me. My aunt had to enroll me in a new school, but there were also people who supported me. Jake sent me a letter thanking me for being brave. He said he never would have been able to speak up if I hadn't done it first. The other 2 boys contacted me too. One of them told me, "You literally saved my life. I was planning to kill myself because I thought I was alone, and it was my fault." An organization for victims of church abuse contacted me and offered me free therapy. I've been going every week. The trial of Pastor Evans is still ongoing. It's been a year and a half. He's in jail awaiting trial. His lawyer is still trying to argue that everything is fake, that the videos were edited, that I manipulated him. But the evidence is overwhelming. The prosecutors say he'll likely get 30 to 50 years. Part of me wants him to rot in prison. Another part of me just feels empty because I know none of this gives me back what he took. And you know what screws me up the most? I knew what was going to happen. I knew his wife would suffer. I knew his kids would be socially destroyed. I knew the congregation would fracture. I knew my mom might reject me, and I did it anyway, because my rage was bigger than my compassion for them. Does that make me a monster? A lot of people think so. They say, "Why didn't you go to the police privately first? Why did you have to humiliate him publicly like that?" And my answer is always the same. Because nobody believed me when I tried to do it privately. Because the system protects powerful men. Because if I had gone to the police first, he would have had time to destroy evidence, to manipulate witnesses, to hire slick lawyers. I needed it to be so public, so undeniable, that he couldn't hide. I needed everyone to see his real face at the exact same time. Was it cruel? Yes. Was it extreme? Absolutely. Would I do it again without a second of hesitation? Yes. Because look, in the end, it wasn't just about me. It was about all the kids who would have come after me. If I hadn't done what I did, Pastor Evans would still be up there preaching, being worshipped and abusing. Jake would still be his victim. And there would have been more. There are always more with people like him. Some people call me a hero. I don't feel like a hero. Heroes in the movies save everyone and everything ends well. I destroyed almost everything around me. But I stopped a predator. And that has to count for something. Right now, I live with my aunt. I go to therapy twice a week. I'm at a new school where nobody knows my story though. I know it's just a matter of time before someone Googles me and it all starts again. I still have nightmares. Sometimes I dream about that Sunday. But in the dream, nobody believes me, and the video won't play, and everyone is pointing and laughing at me. Other times I dream about Pastor Evans, and I wake up drenched in sweat. My therapist says I have PTSD, that it's normal after prolonged trauma, that it's going to take years to heal. She says what I did was an act of survival and justice, that I shouldn't feel guilty for the fallout on innocent people because I didn't force Pastor Evans to be a predator. Intellectually, I get that. Emotionally, I still feel like I ruined more lives than I saved. And my mom, I don't know if she'll ever believe me. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her for not believing me the first time. My aunt says maybe with time, but I'm not sure I even want that reconciliation. Because if she couldn't believe me, her own son over a stranger with a religious title, then what does that say about our bond? The church finally closed 6 months ago. They couldn't recover from the scandal. The building is empty now, with a for sale sign out front. Every time I drive by it, on my way to visit my aunt, I look at it and feel nothing. Not satisfaction, not sadness, just emptiness. Like looking at the ruins of something you once thought was important, but now you know was fake from the start. Pastor Evans's wife divorced him. I read in the local paper that she published a letter apologizing to all the victims. She said she was blind, that he manipulated her too, that she never suspected a thing. I don't know if I believe her. Part of me thinks she had to have seen something. Another part understands that manipulators are experts at hiding who they really are. His kids, from what I heard, are in therapy too. The oldest one posted something on social media saying he hates his father for what he did, but he also hates everyone who points fingers at them as if they're guilty. He's right. They didn't do anything wrong. But the world doesn't work on individual justice. It works on guilt by association. It's messed up, but it's the reality. Jake wrote to me recently. He's 13 now. He told me he's doing better, that his family supported him, that he's in therapy, and at a new school. But he said something that stuck with me. Sometimes I miss when I didn't know the truth, when I thought the pastor was a good guy. Because it was easier to live in the lie than to carry this truth. I know exactly what he means. The truth is heavy. The truth breaks things. The truth doesn't always bring peace. Sometimes it just brings more pain. But it's the truth. And kids deserve to live in the truth, not in lies that protect abusers at the cost of our innocence. So yes, I did something extreme. Yes, maybe I should have found another way. But at that moment, at 16 years old, carrying 3 years of abuse, seeing that nobody believed me, watching another kid get victimized, that was the only way I could see. And I would do it again, 1,000 times. I don't regret exposing Pastor Evans. I regret that it had to come to that. I regret that the adults in my life failed so badly that a 16-year-old kid had to become his own avenger because the system doesn't work. I regret that his wife and kids had to pay for his crimes, but I don't regret stopping him. My name is Leo. I'm 17. I destroyed a predator and his entire world. And if I could go back, I'd do it again. Every single time.